welcome to today's show. I'm Jacqueline Stockwell, CEO and founder at Leadership Through Data. I inspire and motivate information leaders across the world. Welcome to today's show. I'm Jacqueline Stockwell, CEO and founder at Leadership Through Data, and I'm the host of your podcast. Today, I'm super excited to have Opeta with me in the studio. So, Opeta, do you want to introduce yourself? Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. And what do you do?
Well, right now I'm
Nice.
based at the Pacific Islands Forum, which is sort of like our version of the EU for Europe and ASEAN for Asia, and I'm helping them with their knowledge management.
Amazing, amazing. And what do you do in your spare time? Because I can imagine that takes up quite a bit of your time.
Looking at LinkedIn and YouTube for stuff to learn. I was quite amazed how much stuff I found on LinkedIn. So try and see what I need to get ready for and see what's on the horizon.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. And just talking about LinkedIn, I mean, it's so useful. There's some really good key influencers and followers that can really get you the knowledge and really kind of, I would say, influencers in the industry just to keep following so you can keep up to date. And the nice thing about LinkedIn is it's free, although it is addictive.
Yeah, so I'm lucky. I'm lucky they give me a very narrow sort of thing. So for LinkedIn, I use for information management, information governance stuff. I could easily get pulled down the whole, international relations, Pacific studies sort of nexus, but no, I just use LinkedIn for one thing, and that's to try and see what's going on with this sector.
Nice, but you can definitely get addicted to it, to like all the people that you're following, and you could be on there for like a 5-minute quick notification, then all of a sudden it's 20 minutes later and you've lost the time. So yeah, exactly. So your work has highlighted a really big problem, and I know we've been talking about it for a while in the Pacific Islands. You struggle with a high turnover and a lack of training. If you could solve that kind of one problem today for information managers in Fiji's, what would that be?
If I could solve one problem, it would be raising societal awareness of the issue, of the sector, of the needs of the sector. Like, it's so buried and it's so invisibilized that those are the things that you mentioned, the symptoms of this main thing, like, because there's no appreciation, we don't get the training. We're hemorrhaging people who we have trained. So it's all on the job for the most part, because there are no tertiary sort of trainings available for information governance in the South Pacific, or information management. I mean, there is librarianship, but there's nothing for records management, nothing for record keeping. And the librarian qualification is only to diploma level. So there is quite a dearth. But, so the sector is really one of the ways that it manifests this invisibilization is that it's highly gendered. The sector is probably like 80% women, 20% men. It's like us males, the males that do it fall into it, or we're just tragics. We just we don't have a choice. We just have to do this. But also other ways that it's invisibilized is like when I resigned as director from the National Archive, that post went 5 years without being filled.
Wow.
And the National Archives is actually also the National Legal Deposit Library. So could you ever envisage a time in your
Wow.
country where the head of the National Library and the head of the National Archives was left vacant for 5 years?
Wow. That's
Yeah,
huge.
yeah, exactly.
So what
That's
so what do you
the
think you
mm,
so let's unpick that a little bit. So you talked at the start about the issues and the struggles. And what do you think you could suggest that would make a real impact today or from tomorrow?
that's why I'm at the forum, because finally, so regional archivists have been writing to the forum for 20 years, literally, to make this an area for focus, asking them, to make this an area that needs to be looked into. And finally, this year, they've finally asked for a sort of a consultant to come and help them with their own. So I think this is sort of potentially the opportunity to use this engagement as a way to let them see the markers, what they should be concentrating on, that we need to build the sector for long-term sustainability, that you need to build the capacity, that we need to have the training, that we need to be forward-looking and not reactionary. So so that's really why I reached out to you guys in your program. As I told you before, before coming to Fiji for this consultancy, I just bought your book online on Amazon. So yeah, and I found that through LinkedIn. So yay, LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
that was a nice thing because we connected through LinkedIn, didn't we? So LinkedIn has so many positive things of connecting and making the world a much smaller place for us to share our knowledge. So I think it's amazing.
see
And
each other.
just talking about the
We
things,
can
so
see each other.
yeah, 1,000%, 1,000%. And it brings us much closer and we become friends. So that's why I love LinkedIn. I've got like my followers are my friends. So we're going to be going, which is really exciting. We're going to be coming. I'm going to come meet you in February, don't I, next year, and we're going to be running a road show for Empower. We're speaking to a lot of attendees with the single skills, which are going to try and sort of really help you highlight the importance of that. What do you think is the one skill and the information leaders need in Fiji?
This is a really hard one too. I think it is a skill, but a growth mindset. Having a growth mindset, I think that could be a key that could unlock us. We need to be brave. We need to be courageous. We need to be curious. We need to engage. And like most archivists or record keepers, I'm actually an introvert. People sometimes don't believe me when I let them know, but my first instinct is to sit at the back and just shut up. But when I see stuff happening, I wait for others to say something. And then when no one's saying it, then I get antsy and start yammering. But I think we need to have a growth mindset. We need to, yeah, it's really weird. People really don't believe me when I tell them I'm an introvert. We really need to be able to see challenges and obstacles as actually as opportunities in disguise, which can be really hard when you've got so many things going against you. That's why, a growth mindset, I think, could really bring us out of the stacks and into the boardroom, to be able to raise issues and take things on and, advocate for budgets, for proper staffing and proper training and proper facilities. Yeah.
I love that. So let's unpick that a little bit more because we talk quite a lot about growth mindsets. Because if you're not in the right
Okay.
mindset to learn, to push forward,
Mm.
you're going to struggle with the challenges ahead. So can you just explain to the listeners what a growth mindset is?
Well, I'm not an expert, but I think it's the way I see it. It's about, this is probably wrong, but I think it's driven by purpose. Like, like for me, it's like I want to be helpful for my people. And so, what are the ways that I can do that? And what do they need? And what do they need that they don't know they need? That's how I wound up at the archives. Yeah, exactly. That's how I wound up at the archives. So it's about not letting others say who we are. You know, like that's a real bugbear of mine as a Pacific Islander, as a Fijian. We're always being limited to either rugby players, or if you're from Fiji, that's the place where coups happen. It's like, no, no, no. Fiji is much more than a holiday destination or rugby players or a place that has had some coups. You know, like we have so
Mm,
many amazing things in
mm,
our history.
yeah.
We have so many amazing stories and lessons that, you know, for a long time, Fijians recoiled from the issue of history. Is because when you start talking about history, we're always reduced to the coups, that we've had coups. So when we were at the archives, we're like, no, our history is a massive resource and it's an inheritance. And our forebears did so many wonderful things. And so we try to celebrate history and bring the public along with us in that journey. And
Mm,
it worked, you know, like we developed outreach programs, we developed, you know, with no budget and with no specialized comms people, we developed a social media presence, which was quite pumping for its time. Like it had over 50,000 followers, and so we were able to push documentary heritage out into the public, so that Fijians and Pacific people could celebrate what their ancestors and their mothers and fathers did. You know, like so for
mm.
me, it's about not being confined to a box.
Yep,
Sometimes that box is us
yep.
and
Uh,
our insecurities. Sometimes that box is externally imposed. And a lot of my time at the National Archives was dealing with both scenarios, you know? Self-inflicted box and then
mm.
externally inflicted box. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds a
so
very
you got,
roundabout
uh,
way.
I love that. That was just beautiful. I was just very, very into that conversation then. We could carry on for a long time.
Yeah.
So growth mindset is just making sure I think about it as growing. So you're always
Mm,
continually growing yourself. You're looking at professional development. You're looking at
mm, mm.
key things to help you move forward.
Yes.
It's also looking at feedback and challenges as a need for growth, rather than if you're in a fixed mindset, you know everything, you don't need to
Yeah.
grow, and you're an absolute expert at everything, and you come across feedback as criticism. So there's the kind of
I
the two
think that in
mindsets
particular is,
distinguished.
that last bit in particular is, I think, very evident, I think. Part of it is born from fear, I think, that we can't admit that we don't know something, so we have to pretend that we know everything. No, you know, like, just say you can go and find out, or you can put the person in touch with someone who's or who's an authority on the issue. Like, that's a big thing, personally, the way I see it, in the Pacific and Fiji, like, that thing of, that lack of curiosity and it's born of fear, right? That you don't want to look like you don't know. So then maybe your job might be at risk. So it's a culture that needs to be developed. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And you talked beautifully earlier about Fiji and the Pacific Islands and the archives. And you were very, very good at articulating the story there because I was just very much into the conversation that you were saying. How do you think archives and record departments can get better at selling stories back to the business and their stakeholders and end users?
So it's changed lives, you know. Like we saw that on a day-to-day basis, where I was. Okay, you're hearing me. Okay, good. I think one of the strategies that we used was we looked for topical things. Like we'd look at, for example, the United Nations. We'd look at their calendar, and we'd look at their, day of literacy or day of communications or whatever it was. So we'd map that all out, and we'd look at our holdings, and we'd look for things that could speak to those issues. Another one, so that we could celebrate those issues using historic documentary heritage, unique documentary heritage, so that it's not just about the issue, it's also about Fiji's place within that issue, or the Pacific's place within that issue. Another way is to also incorporate local calendar events, so that you're always able to have input and demonstrate unique value, not generic value. Unique value, unique insights on a given topic. So that's, in a nutshell, that's kind of what we wound up doing. Because
Nice.
it's very much trial and error.
Nice.
No experts, just trial and error.
Nice. And from what I understand, lots of stories, you're telling lots of stories to connect to the heart, to connect to the emotional aspects and really
Yeah,
drive
like
that
for
information
example,
management.
there's two types of indentured labor in Fiji's history. The more well-known one is that of Indian indentured laborers who came from the subcontinent. But before that was Pacific Island indentured laborers who came from different parts of the Pacific, but mostly from Melanesia, from Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, and so on. And so they actually, on 2014, they celebrated their 140th anniversary. And as a minority, they were having hard times. They've been having hard times for quite a while. And they had sort of lost parts of themselves, parts of their identity, and so on. When we found out that they were having their reunion or their commemoration, we made copies of all of their records, and we went to them and said, this is your documentary heritage. And some of them were crying, like, because it was able to substantiate with evidence who they were, who their descendants were, where they came from. It was able to anchor them. So that was special, but it's not unique. That sort of thing is why archives exist, why we should prioritize our knowledge, prioritize our data, prioritize our records. It's for this. It's not just about business. Yes, that's important. You need to have a competitive advantage and efficiencies and effectiveness. Yes. But societally as well, over the long term, this stuff is priceless. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Absolutely. And that's how you can connect, isn't it? I just think that was amazing, beautifully articulated there. So you're seeing a big shift from physical records to platforms like Microsoft 365. What do you see as the biggest headache for the transition for you?
That low capacity with non-conversant. We're still very paper-based, which is a big enough challenge as it is, but it comes back to the thing of being put in a box. So our decision makers, our policy makers, and our funders, our ministries of finance and whatnot, they just see us as basic, in a way, like glorified warehouses. They simplify what we do like that. So they don't see us having a forward-looking role. And so we need to have the courage to claim that. To say, this is the current business environment, and this is the coming business environment. And we need to be conversant with those technologies, with those systems, with those ecosystems, because that's where modern knowledge is being made. And our people need that knowledge and data and information to be secure. And IT people won't be fixing that. IT people won't be fixing that. Economists won't be fixing that. For example, we had an information bill. Archives weren't consulted on it. There's a national digital strategy. Archives had no role in it. But under the Public Records Act, it is the record-keeping authority of the government. So there are a lot of holes. And we've got to be conversant in
a lot of holes
that
there.
Technology. Yeah. So that's why we're talking. Yeah.
That's why we're talking. And then you talked earlier that you're on our program, you're on our 12-month Empower program, and we're super excited to have you there. And we can train and teach you and guide and do all the wonderful things and help to accelerate your information management practices in Fiji. Just to close us out, I am so excited to come in February for our Empower Roadshow. So if any of the listeners are in Fiji and they want to come, please reach out to Opeta and we can get your free place booked available
also,
for you. Peter, this has been...
Timothy Balinaivalu is the current director of recently appointed, finally, director of the National Archives. He's going to be hosting us. So get in touch with Timothy at the National Archives.
Amazing. And I'll put those details in. I'll put those details in the show notes. But yeah, I cannot wait. It's been amazing to have you on the show. Thank you so much for all your discussions and stories that you've just shared with us. And I wish you all the best for the future. How can listeners reach out to you and contact you?
LinkedIn. I'm LinkedIn. I'm friend of yours on LinkedIn. I guess that's yeah. But I'm also on Facebook, but I guess LinkedIn, for IM stuff, yeah. It's really amazing.
Beautiful.
I'm just because of your context, I look through, and then if there's someone I like, I'm like, follow. Oh, okay, they got stuff I can use. So I send a connect request, and they're so generous. They just see that I'm connected to you or others that we both know, and they're like, yeah, okay, I'll accept this weirdo, this guy who's just dropping in from nowhere.
That's what LinkedIn's about, though. It's so important to make those connections, make those new connections. It helps you grow, it helps you learn. You just need to make sure that you don't get addicted to it, because obviously it's a technology thing. But absolutely, you follow me and you connect with whoever. I'm more than happy to help in any way possible. So thank you so much for your time. It's been absolutely sensational. Thank you for listening to the Journals of the Information Entrepreneur with me, Jacqueline Stockwell. I hope you found this episode inspiring and helpful and have some takeaway tips that can be useful to you. If you liked this episode, please like, review and share it with your friends. Your support helps us reach more information leaders to stay inspired and listen to great content. Want to test out your strengths and weaknesses and measure it against our Empower framework? Please complete the scorecard. It's a great way to improve and evaluate your skills. You can find the scorecard at the end of the description of this podcast. Stay tuned for a new podcast every Thursday, and remember to be bold, be brave, and be beautiful.